Welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast, a podcast where we focus on real issues and have real talk, and as always, provide a biblical perspective. We hope that you will be blessed as you listen.
Welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast. This is the Amazing Truth Minute.
This is the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Like us on Facebook at the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
Our Amazing Truth Minute today will focus on the book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 9. And it says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." You see, it's wise to make plans and to set goals, but we must remember God is in control of every circumstance. The writer of Proverbs 16 opens with the words, "The preparations of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord." That's Proverbs 16 verse 1. God is interested in even the slightest details of our lives, and no plan can succeed apart from his purpose. Even our best efforts will amount to nothing without God's blessing. The psalmist echoes the words of Proverbs, and he says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain." No amount of talent, skill, effort, or planning will be fruitful unless God purposes for it to succeed. Self-reliance isn't a positive attribute. God views it as sin. As we make plans, we must prayerfully consult the Lord and seek his guidance. And that is the Amazing Truth Minute.
The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
Awesome, amazing. We are back at it, Ken. And are you ready? I'm ready. Exciting. Listen, viewers. I said viewers. Listeners, right?
You're preempting, but I like
preempting, right? We would like to welcome you back. I'm excited about this episode, man. It's been, it's Rehema, man. My friend. Give a shout out to her first. I think Rehema, it's right for us to begin.
Let's give a shout out to Rehema for and Casey, right? 3 episodes we did with them. Yes. First 2 episodes with Rehema, the down and then the come up, and then we looked at the perspective of a friend, of someone who's dealing with mental health and other issues, and how as a friend we can, come together. So that was good. Shout out to Rehema. So if you haven't listened to the episode, there was a code in there. There was a $20 off. She is a barber, a professional haircut stylist.
I don't know. You keep going. I don't know. She cuts hair. That's what she does, right?
Rehema Cuts LLC. Check her out, and we shout out to you, Rehema. We appreciate you.
Amazing story, amazing feedback. Just to listen to what she had gone through, and how people who can relate to that, they're looking back and they're reacting and they're giving feedback to that. So we just want to appreciate and say that it is because of people like Rehema, like Aizo, like Victor, like the Vicks, that we are getting all this amazing feedback. And today,
wait. And for those who have reached out and have wanted to get Rehema's contact, I know when we premiered her part 2, there was someone who wanted her contacts.
Yes.
The contacts are there. You reach out to her if you are offering support, if you want to support her business, and if you want to have a story to tell. Yeah,
there you go.
Reach out to us. But anyway, there you go. It's never about us.
It's never about us. But we always try sometimes to do it without knowing, right? But also it's good to see you, Ken, and back again.
Good to see you.
Today we are excited in the studio with our friend. I don't think he's a stranger.
And not a stranger to you.
Because most of the guests who have come here, they have come through radio, through voice. He came through video first.
That's why he said viewers.
So I mean, he's not a stranger to us. Those who have not had a chance, go to YouTube, run there quickly and watch that video. Quick fast. And then you can put a name, his name to the face, and listen to his amazing story. So we're premiering his story full blast, and we're excited. But there's something before I bring the guest that has been I've noticed.
our guests nowadays, when they come with a support system.
They do.
So we do have a support system. We'll put him on pause.
We'll put him on pause.
So that he may come in at the right time.
We have muted his mic.
We have muted his mic. Otherwise, he might take over.
So stay tuned to know who that is.
All right, let's bring our guests in. We already know you. People have seen you, but let's give you the honors to introduce yourself. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us why you're here and what's exciting. What's going on in your life? Take it, my brother.
All right, thank you, man. My name is Duncan Osoro. I'm originally from Kisii. And I know Kisii is a big place, but it's specifically Itibo.
Okay.
I've been in Minnesota for the last 15 plus years now. Mm-hmm. And life has not been that easy, but we're still here.
Awesome.
You are on your come up.
He's already there.
Yeah. He's already.
He's already there. Yeah. We now want to keep going up. Right? We want to keep going up. Yeah. Welcome, Duncan, man. It's good. This brother's taken us to his roots. And I was thinking, like, do you even know where that is?
I know Itibo. I've been there.
You've been there.
Yeah.
There's a couple different ones.
Yeah, I know. I know the one you're talking about.
All right, let's bring it on, because I'm not so sure if I'm confident with that.
No, yeah,
I'm confident with the social work, but this one,
no, just take it and go.
All right, but listeners, we just want to tell you that Duncan has a story to tell, an amazing story to tell. You listen to Rehema's podcast. We kept on talking about our friend, and today we're here to celebrate, but we want to hear the journey behind the celebration that has brought him this far. So I just go ahead.
I don't know. Should we start with the good? No, we always start with the low.
Yeah. Maybe we tweak it. Exactly.
Let's tweak it. This time, let's tweak it. Let's talk about where he's been in the last
few weeks.
Yes. So when he came to the live session,
actually, let's go a little bit step further. Pause. Let's rewind it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Let me say this. Izo comes to the studio, popular Izo, does his thing, and a lot of people who listen to his amazing story and they're inspired. And all of a sudden, this brother slides in our DM. It's nice for brothers to slide in our DM. But they're asking for help, or we're talking about celebrating, right? That's DM. That's a whole different story, right?
A whole different conversation.
So, he comes and he writes to us and he says, hey, I listened to Izo's story and man, that was powerful, and starts sharing his story. And that's how we get connected. But I personally had known him before, but that's when we actually got really to connect and have that conversation. And we picked that call, we spoke to him, and he had a story to tell. But at that time when we picked the call, our friend was, should I say homeless? Is that?
Yeah, that's the best way.
That's the best way to describe it, right?
Legally homeless.
Legally homeless.
Because when you were in a shelter at that time, and when you're in a shelter, you're considered.
Yeah, you're homeless.
Yeah.
But we're here to begin with this. Say that
he's not homeless anymore.
My friend, he has his own place.
I wish he had
has an address, right?
I wish he had a drum roll, man.
I'm telling you. Let me pause and say shout out to everyone who sent something to us. If we want to start on the high note, we went out and did some, good stuff and settled our brother in his own place now. So he has a place, an address that you can. You can mail him some Amazon gifts or anything you have. So we're excited to say that we're celebrating, man.
I've really been. It's been quite an experience, and I personally wanted to thank everybody that came out and helped, whether it was financially or even if it was just prayers. It was a good way, it don't seem like a whole big deal to some people, but when you've been homeless, you've lived with nothing or less, to go to the point where you have your own place, you have a key, you can go home after work, you don't have to be waiting on the hallway to get in and be able to cook whatever I want to cook, so it's been amazing the last couple of
weeks. He one thing that struck me with Duncan, he wasn't afraid of sharing. When we reached out to him, he said, I'm going to do it.
Exactly.
So we did the live. He told it briefly. He told us his story briefly. And then we reached out for help. And then we moved him on Sunday. He's in his place now. He's working. And then so we want to know, how did you get there? How did you get to where you're homeless? And so that's how the conversation will go. Let's start.
You've done a good job there. I give you a high five on that. But anyways, we're just having a good time. No, I like the way, Kenan, you did that. You know, you brought it back home. So Duncan, let's how do we end up there? So pause, take a seat. Now let's begin the journey so that we will conclude back to where we have started from.
Yep.
So you relocated here. How old were you when you moved here? And how was that experience of moving? How did you settle in? How was that?
I moved here when I was 20. I was about to be 21 years old.
Okay.
So when I moved straight from Kenya here, and when I speak of Kenya, you know, some people were raised in cities and all that. I was raised in a village.
In the village,
you know. So I went to primary school in the village. I went to high school still within Kisii. And then I had gone to a teacher's college, Privy.
Yeah.
The green card I applied for was before my last year in high school. So when I moved to here, I didn't have a relative or a family member or anything like that. So it was basically living with people that knew people. And the person that I was expecting to stay with, they had a number of people in the house. So I got moved to stay with somebody else. And that was, it was a hard transition to just go from being, basically, when you're back in Kenya, you don't work. You're in college or in high school, you don't work like people do here. So it was different for me, and having to have all those responsibilities and to deal with the family back home. For one, I grew up in a very poor family. You know, like even to come here was like almost a type of a miracle. So like I told you before on the phone, I lost my father a long time ago when we were little, 95. So it was just my mom.
How old are you when your father passed?
I was about 10.
How many siblings do you have?
I have an older brother, Frank, and my younger sister, Agnes. So it was up to my mom to raise all three of us. So which was a very hard thing for a woman. My mom didn't have much education. She dropped out of school on like 10th grade, Form 2.
Yeah.
So, because she had my brother by then. So, it was a struggle for her to raise all three of us. She worked pretty much all day. She was going pretty much all day just to the markets, selling ABZD, and then come back later. She's tired. So, it was mostly my brother. My brother is like 6 years older than me. So, he raised us pretty much. So, my mom would leave us at home, and my brother would do everything just to make sure that we eat and we go to school and things like that. So moving here was a whole different experience. And I had started drinking when I was in high school, but it wasn't that much. Because when you're in high school, you don't have a lot of money. So we'll drink here and there whenever we went for sports and things like that. And once in a while, which wasn't a big deal. I'll go 2-3 months without a drink and that was fine. But when I moved here, of all that stress, being away from the family, not knowing how they're doing, not being able to support them right away. Because you know how people be expecting when you go to America, land of money. So there was so much expectations of what I was supposed to do and, you know, and be. So that stress alone, you know, drove me into drinking. I started out just drinking. Like I'll drink after work. Or on the weekends when I'm, you know, off work or whatever, until it became a problem where I had to drink. You know, there's a difference. Some people can just drink socially, but I had got to the point where I had to drink.
So this is when you were here, right?
Yes.
Now I want to go back a little bit. Let's go back. When you said your father died when you were young, and your brother raised you, how did it make a difference to grow up without a father, and in how it shaped your choices in your life?
I think if I can add to that question, I'm just adding to that question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just adding that. Now, hindsight, when you look back as a grown up, how would you react to Kenan's question there?
It does. A lot of us don't see that, but it does create a lot of issues, especially for for a kid, for a boy to grow up without a father, because you do, for a boy, you need that guidance of a father. And as much as we don't think that it affects our children, they do look at what is dad doing, what is he not doing, and they grow up knowing that. And not having that in my life, it did affect me. I didn't see it that way while I was growing up, because it almost became a normal thing, because you don't have a father, but I can see how that affected and shaped me in a way. Because being raised by my brother was kind of abusive. Like, he'll be told to do ABCD and then he'll put it on me. So my sister was younger than me. She couldn't do much.
So he himself, he's growing up. Right. So and the role of a father hasn't been placed on him directly. So he's just so even though there's an older brother, he's not raising you as a dad.
No, it's just
he's being an older brother.
Just being an older
he's
brother.
being an older brother. Yeah. So Duncan, you say that, take us back to relocating to this country, and say that, you said it's the first time you're coming, you've never lived in a big city, you've come to the US. It's not that you're coming to relatives, you're staying with people who know people. How was that experience for you? Like, what was that like for you? If you can,
that was a very different experience, because mostly, like I said, I've lived pretty much at home with my mom, even though she was gone most of the day. Like, I would get to see her in the evening, or on the weekends we'll go to church. I was raised as a 7-day Adventist, so we'd go to church together and things like that. But moving here was different. Now, you a whole different country with people that you don't really know. The only thing you know is about their names. As far as, I didn't even know where they were from. They were Kisis, of course, but you don't know where they are from, back home. It was different. It was difficult to even ask for certain things that, were basic needs that are needed at the time, because and there's that kind of way people tell you, like, oh, you don't even need to bring no clothes or nothing, just come on, we'll provide you with all these things,
it's rosy,
until you get here, it's like, oh, hello, I need all these things, but now it's like everybody either they forget about it, or they're too busy with their life to even remember that they promised ABCD, or they just simply don't care. I don't know. I can't say for them. So it was just like, okay, here you are, starting figuring out how to get a job. And then once you get a job, how do you get to and from work?
And who's telling you this? Who's telling you look for a job? You need to settle. Are you figuring this out on your own?
Well, you get that first day lecture, like, oh, now you can, you can get a job.
First day lecture.
That's how I looked at
only
it.
Lecture
orientation, kind of orientation. Like, now you can work, you can go to school, you can do ABCD, and then you basically left just to figure that out with, and then, I was, of course, introduced to a few other people that are either were related to them or were friends to the family and things like that. So I kind of knew a little bit about a few other people. Like, I'll call them here and there sometimes to give me a ride to work or things like that. And, but it was a very different experience on itself, and sometimes, and that's what I wish, like, if I ever have to support somebody to come here, or I want anybody to live in my house, it's an experience that I would never want them to go through, because when somebody moves here, they don't have no money on their pocket, they don't have enough even clothes to change and things like that. Somebody has to provide that to them. Somebody needs to it'll be a good start. Just telling somebody that you can go get a job, you can go to school, that alone is not, you have to actually give them those resources. You have to tell them where to go get a job, you have to take them to where to get a job, or you have to show them how to get there on a bus and things like that. So those are some of the little things that really
the unspoken, which you never told.
That you never told about it, but that affected me right away as soon as I got here. And the guy I stayed with, he was alcoholic, so I don't know if he knows it or not, but that's how we ended up. I ended up just drinking because that was like a thing after work. Okay, let's drink. It's weekend, we have free time, let's drink. So it became.
So that was the environment that you find yourself.
You always say this, that when you come to the States, where you land, where you settle dictates how your life. And I see that. And one thing that's striking also is that if you know that when he came, he was drinking in high school.
Yes.
So when he comes, our friend Izo had to, he was teetering 21, now it's legal, I can drink. But for him, he's coming and the environment is friendly, quote unquote.
Yes.
So it's easy for him to take that bottle and drink. So
it seems like you walk into almost a perfect storm.
Right.
Like, you walk perfect. Let me ask a follow-up question, Danko. In these, if you look back, would you say that you struggled to even ask for help when you look at yourself? Because sometimes we can put it on the other person, but sometimes our pride as human beings, our ego sometimes does not allow us even to ask for help. Yeah. Would you say that when you look back, there could have been, that aspect?
I believe so. Like, I think I said this the last time we were live. I think I have an ego just like every other person. But, I wasn't able to. I didn't allow myself to ask for help, even when I knew like I really needed help. I figured like, yeah, you're a grown man, because I got here a few weeks later. I turned 21.
Yeah.
So legally, you're a grown man, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure these things out by myself.
Yeah.
And then that way, nobody's gonna come and tell me like, hey, I helped you with this. I did this for you. I did this for you. But that was a mistake, because I think we all do need help in one way or the other. Is extending or asking for help is a big problem, and that's something I haven't been able to do for a long time. That I wasn't able to, and that's why I say like I don't mind sharing my story, and I don't mind asking for help because I need it. Like when you need it, you need it.
Yes.
Like, you can pretend that you don't.
Yep.
Then it's just gonna keep hitting on you, and then you're gonna.
And let me. If you look at it, Ezra, too, he's coming into a house where there's people are living their lives, and as you know, in America, even when you say he needed to ask for help, like maybe that person is busy enough not to notice that this guy needs it. Because in America, it's a if you don't know, everyone is busy, everybody's running around, so it's hard for someone to stop and say, "Oh, Ezra needs help." It's hard. So,
but again, Kenan, there's someone right now who just relocated. There's someone right now who's being hosted, right? This becomes the story of many of us. I think if I look back my story coming to this country, it's not far from him in terms of asking for help. I mean, we came here, we are a big family. We came 7 of us. How do you ask help for seven people, right?
It's true.
But and your father and your mother, all that. But I think also as we progress in this story, I'm just trying to wonder, did that aspect of not asking for help, carry on into other aspects of life? Because there are people right now who are listening and they need help, but they can't ask help even for the small things. Yeah. So what happens?
The environment isn't friendly enough to even ask for help. So
the environment can be unfriendly.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, Kenan, the life here is very busy. People are always in and out their homes. People are always at work, school, or whatever they got going on.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard for somebody else to actually see what somebody else is struggling with.
Yeah.
So I would not put all the blame on the person. I should have asked like, hey, I need help with A, B, C, D, but I didn't. So my pride was like, just figure it out. Like I remember there was times I'll get off work like at 11, and I had to walk. And we lived in Coon Rapids for a while, and we had to walk all the way from Anoka on the highway, pretty much walking on the side just to get home because whatever reasons. But so it's hard to ask for help, but like when you really need help, I would encourage anybody that is listening that you do need to ask help, because sometimes people are not gonna know what you're struggling with because especially with the social media these days, everything we put on social media is on how good our lives are. We don't put the ugly on there. When you see a picture of me on social media, sometimes it be me looking fly, but you don't know that during the week I'm all dirty and all this. We don't show that part of our life.
And asking for help, it doesn't have to. You don't have to ask the person that you're living with. Maybe there's other ways which you've highlighted. There's texts you can call, there's calls for help, you can do that. So
it's a principle. It's a principle of being vulnerable, and finding the right place to being vulnerable. So Danko, we keep on building. So you've moved, you've relocated, you're here. So you're at this phase and this stage of your life where you are struggling in terms of settling in. You get yourself in a state and a place where you start drinking. How is that? How does that transition build on? How does just walk us a little bit into that before we go to our break?
So what it started though is I started out like it would be a beer or two after work, and then I think it went to where like I would want to drink more, and then we'll go out, say on Friday or Saturday, we'll go out to the bar. Back then when Blondis was open, so we'll go hang out there. And that kept going for a while. And one of the reasons is like, one of the guys I drunk with actually, he still drinks, but is moderate, like he's not alcoholic.
Yeah.
For me, I call myself alcoholic because I don't know when to stop or when it's enough, and unless I either go to jail, pass out, or I run out of money. Some people know how to control that.
Yeah.
They can drink one beer and go to bed, but I wasn't able to do that. I learned how to just drink every day pretty much, and whenever I was not at work, I would be drinking. I wake up in the morning. I got to the point where I wake up in the morning and I drink some before I go to work.
Okay.
Which is a problem on itself. You cannot be drinking before you go to work.
Yeah.
Which is a whole lot another story. But so it started slowly, and then it progressed to the point where I was not able to control my drinking, and so I lost a couple of jobs for that because I would call in or show up late or and things like that.
So this starts becoming a problem. Did you ever pause at that moment did you realize at that moment that this was starting to become a problem?
By the time I realized that it was a problem, I would say it was almost too late.
Okay.
Like,
so it had to take something else or a situation.
It took a lot of things.
A lot of things for you to realize that this is not normal. This is not okay.
Right. Because I remember the first time I got a first DUI, I stopped drinking for a while.
Okay.
I was like, this is a problem.
Yeah, I think so. It when like the problem. How I want us to unpack that. How do you know it's a problem?
Yes.
I mean, maybe drinking at 8 a.m. is a sign, but to some people that's not
a problem,
right?
For some people.
So how did you think? How did you know it was a problem?
To know that alcohol is a problem, especially for me, to know by the time I knew it was a problem, is like I wanted to drink as much as I could, all the time if I could. I wanted to be drinking in the morning. I wanted to drink in the afternoon. I wanted to drink in the evening. I wanted to drink at night. Like I wanted to drink any time I wasn't even at work. Even when I was at work, I'd be thinking about, hey, I'm gonna stop at this liquor store. I'm gonna get this and this, or should I get this and mix this with this? Because I had got to the point where I couldn't even drink beer anymore. I wanted something stronger to get me on the same level that I was yesterday. So I'll be at work, but I'm still planning on how I'm going to get my drinks, from where, which one is better than the other. I'm looking at the prices. So for somebody to know that it's a problem is like when you're putting too much of your time on either planning on or just thinking about it or just spending time drinking. And then you look at other things that is drinking is affecting, how it's affecting your life. Like you getting fired from work because you call in so many times, or you show up late because you were not able to get up on time. When you're not able to take care of other responsibilities, I do AA, so they say the first step of AA is when your life becomes unmanageable. When you cannot even put up your clothes after you wash them.
I think we're going to come to AA. Some of us will say AA, we start creating acronyms in our heads.
I want to know though, what was it? what were you trying to run away from?
That's
trying to,
yes.
Because I think it's if you're coming from work and you're going to a liquor store to buy and you feel like you wanted it, what were you trying to mask?
Would you consider it as social? Was there something that
underlying
condition that was making you crave it?
Most of the time, there was always an underlying issue, and most of people that are addicted to something, there's always an underlying issue. For my case, it was boredom, loneliness. Sometimes, I had a lot of issues, personal issues that I wasn't able to address. So when I'm drunk or when I'm drinking, unfortunately or fortunately enough, that alcohol take away that pain for that moment. But the problem is that I'm gonna wake up the next morning and I have the same problems. Or even more sometimes. So that alone will push me back to like, hey, we should go back and drink a little bit more. Maybe it will keep us for a while, but then I started creating more problems for myself, and then that was why I said, like, when the legal issue stuff's coming in and all that, and so it becomes a big mess.
We want to go for break, but I want you to react to this question, and then we go for break.
Yeah.
What will you tell yourself at 21?
At that stage, yeah.
Talk to someone who's at stage. What would you tell them? And then after that, we go for break, and then we'll come back.
Yeah.
A lot of things I would love to. I wish I could go back there, but I know I won't. But it'd be nice to go back to 21 and have the knowledge that I have today. But the only thing I'll tell somebody that is 21 who's listening is like, as 21. As much as young you think you're a grown person, you can make better decisions, and don't choose the easy way out of life. It's better to address your problems right away, instead of just pushing them to tomorrow or next week or next year. If it's a problem, it's much better dealt with today. If it happened today instead of next week or next month, because it becomes something different. By then, you probably won't even have time to think about it, because there'll be another problem. And then that adds up into what can lead into like depression. And I know that's one of the things, I don't want to talk so much about it, but I ended up being diagnosed with depression, which is a clinical term they use, but that really, after a while, stress can turn into depression.
Okay. So if you're listening, there you have it. Deal with your issues. Don't run away from them. Find the right way, the right place to deal with it. Kenan, let's take a break. Or unless we want us to vote.
No.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after the break. All right, there you have it, my friend. We are here on this break, and Kenan, I think there's something we need to do for the listeners.
Yes, let's.
The listeners, this is not just a place where we come and talk, right? We said we'll do something after that.
Yeah.
So I want to invite our good friend here to tell us what's going on, how he's been since we last saw him here, and let the listeners enjoy and serenade in his deep voice that you're about to hear. All right, take it, my brother. Tell us how you've been. Who are you? How have you been? How has it been going so far?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here again to support my brother Duncan. Today is his day, but I came in for moral support.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Sorry. My name is Isaiah Ongombe.
Aizo
is what everybody calls me. We did a podcast earlier. I shared my story about substance abuse, and I can share it with anybody on the private, because I think my airtime was done then.
How have you been since then?
I've been okay. I've heard a lot of feedback from everybody, and ranging ages.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're doing something, Aizo. Since after your podcast and Victor's podcast, we started something. Can you talk a little bit about it for anyone else who's out there who's listening? What have you been doing? What have we been doing?
So what we've been doing is we actually created a safe space. You know, we catch up every Friday. We do have a Zoom, and how we're gonna share the details.
We'll put the details on the website and Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
Yeah, we'll put the details on the Instagram and the Facebook. So what we basically do is we catch up on Friday, and we get to share. It's a place where you're free, because first, you know, it's confidential. You're free to share how your week was, and we talk about how can we help. What is it that you're dealing with? What problem are you having that we can help?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we do the highs and lows.
The highs and lows, yeah.
And then we center it on prayer.
Yes.
Let's not forget that we center it on prayer. We invite, so safe space. You keep talking about safe space. So we're there. You come there. You just share your story. Don't even share a story. Tell us who you are. If you're struggling with something, we can help, and we can point you to someone.
And you don't have to share your story.
You don't have to share.
You just come and be in the presence of people who are sharing their stories and just catch up. So I just want to give shout out to Izo and Victor and Duncan. This is of course virtual, but once a month we're going to be doing it where it's open space in person, where we just come and talk. So stay tuned for a virtual. But Izo, keep leading, keep guiding, keep doing your thing. We're proud of you.
Yes.
Proud of Duncan, proud of Victor. I know we need to go back to Duncan's story, but as we go back to the Duncan story, I want to say this, that I know these guys, Kenan and I are working on it, but they've started running Sundays morning.
Yes, it's a thing now.
To stay safe and stay sane and do that. So please pray for Kenan and I to get to that bandwagon.
I
but
know.
we're there.
We are there.
All right. Thank you so much. That is our time.
This is the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Like us on Facebook at The Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back. Thank you for that, and for those details, we'll share them on our pages. So we're back to Duncan. Now we are there. Now you're into substance abuse. You call yourself an alcoholic. You're regularly and consistently drinking at this point. You say that there's some things you're trying to escape from: loneliness, boredom, and some other personal issues. So you are this is roundabouts 21-ish, 22, mid-20s, let's say mid-20s. So where does it go from there? You're drinking regularly, morning, you wake up, go from work, go to the liquor store. Where does it go from now? From there.
From there, mostly, like if you're drinking that much, especially with the driving here, first thing that happened is I got a DUI. And then, now I started dealing with the courts. So you have all this people telling you this is what to do, this is what you can do, and all this.
So how old were you when you got your DUI? Walk us through that experience of your first DUI.
I think I was like 22 now, or 23, somewhere around there. And then that experience scared me because I've never been in jail before. And that was the first time I was in jail. I was in Noka County. And I'm in jail, scared as hell, from the videos and movies you see about jail. So I'm over there very scared, and not really scared the hell out. Excuse my language, but that scared me a lot. So I was there for 3 days, and then I was let out. They told me I had to do a bunch of hours on the community.
Who bailed you out?
I didn't get bailed out. Nobody did. I was arrested, I think, on a Friday night, and then I stayed there until Monday morning. I had to go to court, and then when you go to court, because it was the first time, the first DUI, basically they let me out and they told me I had to do 8 hours class. I had to do some community service and things like that, and then pay the fines.
And that's where the concept of loneliness now. There's no one to bail you out. You're in there alone.
Did you have friends? Would you say you had a circle of friends? Because you came here, you didn't have family.
Yeah.
Did you say you had a circle?
I have family, and I would say, unfortunately, I never met friends. People I can, the word friends is loosely used these days. Just because you know somebody's name doesn't mean they're your friend. Just because you sit down and drink with somebody don't mean they're your friend. Because I remember calling a bunch of people that I've had drinks with, and nobody picked up the phone, you know, and that upset me back then. But then after that, that's when I was like, I probably don't have friends, so I shouldn't even talk about friends now. And by then I got to the point where it didn't matter if I was drinking by myself or with somebody. So if I drank by myself, it was better because I'll have much to drink by myself. You know, I would have enough to drink by myself instead of, you know, buying other people drinks that are not gonna bail me out of jail or anything. So I'm like, hey, more for me, you know. So that that experience really was the first time that it drove me to where like I don't really need friends or people that pretend to be friends but they're not. So I might as well just, you know, drink by myself, or if we meet up at the bar, I'll say hello and I was there, and you know. So I had started isolating myself most of the time. I didn't want to hang out with a lot of people because I felt like nobody really cared and nobody, you know, was on my side. So it's much better to be alone. That way I don't have to expect anything. If I don't expect anything, then I won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
You know, so it was, you know, that was my way of thinking. But, you know, that's when I had, so after I got put on probation, so now I had to do what the predators, and they had those random, because I was put on what they call DUI codes. They give you a color, say blue or red, whenever. So you have to call the county every morning, Monday through Friday,
to find out what color you are.
Yeah, so if you call this number and they say today's color is blue,
help me with colors. What he is talking about.
Yeah, so it's a thing the county uses. So they give you a color, and every day is assigned. They have about, I think, 4 or 5 different colors.
Yeah.
So they have white, blue, green, red, and
Purple,
I think. Yeah, so if you get to say blue,
the fact that you're a social worker, you know this, but I have to remember that you're a social worker.
What they want is they want to make sure that you can call every morning, and to make it's like a electronic GPS, so to speak. So they know where you are that morning. You call. So when they say, okay, so the color means if today's color is purple, if you're on a purple, you have to go in and do a UA. Or you have to submit your UA. So if it's yellow, so then they assign different colors, different days. So make sure you don't drink. So it's kind of
and the things like that, county thing, it can date back to like up to 7 days. If you drink today, 7 days from today, there won't be no alcohol in your system, actual alcohol, but some particles of alcohol in your system. It will show that there was some part of alcohol in your system 7 days ago.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. So I was on that, so I violated a couple of times. But basically they sent me back to doing treatment and things like that. But then, you know, that's when, like I told you before, that's when I met somebody else, and he was like, you know, there's something you can use to get the same feeling, or if not better than that, if you still got to do the US.
Okay. Right. So your DUI probation, you violate your probation, they send you to treatment. Do you actually go to treatment and finish treatment, or how would that go?
I did go to treatment. I went to Park Avenue. I was supposed to be there for 28 days. If you're doing inpatient treatment, you do 28 days. And then after that, you go to what they call aftercare. But I didn't complete the treatment.
Okay.
I was there for about 5 days. I didn't like it, so I left. And that was another violation. So they sent me to the workhouse. I had to do like 17 days, I think it was, or 21 days. 21 days. That's the workhouse in Plymouth.
Yeah.
So I was there for like 21 days, and then so after that 21 days they let me out, but they didn't put me back on the collar or anything. So they let me out because I basically served the time. They didn't see the need to follow me around. They put me on just unsupervised probation. Unsupervised probation is like, unless you get in trouble, that's the only time you have to deal with them.
Okay.
So if you don't get in trouble,
So Duncan, you this is alcohol that is taking you all these circles, is making you violate one after the other. Pretty much Rose and you, as long as you get alcohol, you don't put those in the same name.
No,
in the same sentence.
group.
It's a subgroup. They're not the same WhatsApp group. So now, did you manage to figure out how to keep yourself going through this because you have a alcohol problem? How do you sustain that life? I think you mentioned that you were introduced to something else. So what is this? So if I get you correctly, you're introduced to another drug that is not found in the system. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Right. That's the K2.
Okay.
And it's it's synthetic marijuana, but what it is basically it's not detectable. If you go take a drug test or anything, you cannot detect it because it's not the same every time. Most of it's like these days it comes from China and stuff like that. So it's mixed with different things that somehow erodes the drug testing.
Yeah.
So that's when I first started smoking that. And I fell in love with it. Like, I have an addictive behavior, personality, if you can say. Like, anything I've tried, I pretty much got addicted to it. I started smoking a cigarette just out of fun because I was drunk. And I got addicted to smoking, you know. So at this time, since I wasn't able to drink, in between that time, I started smoking K2. And that I can still get high. And not have to deal with the failing US and all of that.
So Ken, I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to. We like we put a caveat that there. We're not condoning or advocating for K2, but I just want to read something. K2, it's a commonly used drug at this age, at this time. But some of the dangers of it are confusion, hallucinations, extreme cases of anxiety and paranoia. And then violent behavior. People that use it have violent behavior, increased heart rates, your heart, right? Suicidal tendencies, repeated vomiting. So, in as much as it's not detected in the system, whatever it does to you is worse.
Right.
Than it does.
It has a lot of so Ken, you're reading those things, and I'm listening to Duncan here, and I'm asking myself, what is this that is getting Duncan to a place that he will do anything and everything to stay high? There is a deeper problem that is, making my brother here to say, you know what, okay, I'm gonna go to that extent of doing something else that's going to
if you look at it, I think it comes even from Kenya.
Yes.
From dad dying all the way it started there. So
there's a lot of things relocating, coming at this age and all stuff that are underlying. Because sometimes, Duncan, and correct me if I'm wrong, as young people especially, we look at social media and we see people posting photos and we see them having a good time. But we don't know that that's their way of hiding deeper problems that they have.
Most of the time.
So for us, we want that good time, but there is underlying issues that they have not dealt with. But you don't have any underlying issues, but you want that life.
You can say that. One of the things I've learned about humans or myself, I'm going to speak for myself. It's like I said, I do have an addictive personality. And at this time, I'm an alcoholic. And to understand me better, like some of the things I've learned in life, because I've been in treatment. I'm in treatment right now for drugs and alcohol. One of the things I've learned is like, we make the first choice to drink or try anything. But after a while, once your body gets into it, you really don't have a choice. It becomes like food for everybody else. You want to eat because you're hungry.
Yes.
So you get that hunger to get that high every day. So it pushes you to the limit. Like, hey, I'm going to do anything. I don't care if it's raining or if it's, whatever is going on. I'm going to get what I want at this time because my body wants it. It becomes, and of course, there's always a lot of underlying issues, and then time becomes of an essence. Even though you're wasting a lot of time and your life away, you're literally looking at these other things like, like I said, there was a lot of expectation, say, from my family. Like, they had expected me to do all these things. By this time, I've dropped out of school because I wasn't able to make to school when I'm supposed to. So I failed literally, and I dropped out of school. I'm not, I've lost some of the good jobs I've ever had. Now I'm like, okay, what else is there to do? So now I'm moving. Like I said, I had moved myself from some of the Kenyan people I've known or lived with in the past. So now I'm living in Minneapolis, and I have a whole different community of people there. And this is where it's like, over here nobody charge you, but you can do whatever you want anytime you want and things like that. So it was easy for me to just do all this.
So you go to another community. I know. With your story, how many do you? If I can ask, how many DUIs have you had so far?
I ended up having 3 DUIs within 5 years. So the third one became a felony.
Oh. So now you have the first one. It's put you on spiral. Second, what's the time difference between the first and the second one?
I was sober for a while. Maybe about 2 or 3 years.
Oh, so you were sober for 3 years.
I wasn't drinking because I was scared.
Yeah.
Okay.
But after a while, I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I started drinking again. Then I got a second DUI. And once I got that one, it so happened that it was in Hennepin County. When I was taken to jail, the jails were so full. They let me out the next morning, like 3 a.m. And I was still drunk, and I went to pick up my car, and I got another DUI.
Wow.
The very same
literally the next day. So
wow.
Yeah.
And that's the one that constituted a felony.
And that's a felony because it was within 5 years.
Yeah,
so if right now I think the law is if you get 3 within 5 years, the third one is a felony. If you get 4 within 10 years, the fourth one is a felony.
So now, in a span of less than 5 years, you have a felony.
Right.
You have DUI. You have these. You have a felony
at 20.
At around
23.
Around 23.
Wow.
Full of energy, young man, promising, sent to this country by single mother. Success story for the family, living the dream in the US. But you see where the dream takes him. So we're starting to wind up because the juice has not even gotten there. Because part 2, we get to the story where you ended up spending and doing time in prison, right? Kenan, what do you have to say? What are you hearing before we bring Duncan in as we start wrapping up on this part?
I'm listening to Duncan, and I'm saying he has a life that is, I don't want to use the word confused, but it's all over the place. Wow. There's not a point where you've had that you've settled and you can get a job, get a steady job, and your life is on a linear kind of. It's like it's all over the place. You're figuring out yourself. You have dropped out of school. You're drinking in Kenya. You come here. It's not a stable place for you. So it's not. You didn't get a solid footing. So all your life is just you're going up and down. You're 23. You're an adult legally, but your thinking is still as a child. And then you have 3 DUIs. So you didn't get a fair chance to get your footing solid. That's what you're here.
I think one of the things that I'm hearing, and I want to speak to anyone who's listening, especially the younger folks who are listening out here, is that I like what Duncan said. Duncan said that you make the first choice to drink.
Yeah.
But after a while, you don't have the ability to make that choice. The body makes the choice for you.
Yeah.
The friends make the choice for you. The circumstances make the choice for you. And I think that, as everyone, we will always have the power to make that first crucial choice.
Yeah.
Like even in whatever circumstances that we are in, right? The choice to remove yourself from the community of people that even though they were not family, but go to another community, that gets you to spiral. Duncan, what would you say now that you look back and you say that, okay, what goes into your mind when you have the third DUI? It's a felony. Just take us through that, and then we'll do the parting shots as we build on the second part 2.
So basically, once you get a felony, unfortunately, in most states, and Minnesota is one of them, when you have a felony, you literally changes your life. Now you are limited to what you can do and what you can't do. So there are a number of things. As of having a felony, it affects like even housing.
So at this point, do you have your own place? Are you staying by yourself? What is the situation?
But then I was staying with an ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
But still, So with having that felony, after the lease was up, I wasn't even able to renew the lease in that same apartment that I've been staying for a while. Because they do not rent felonies and they don't care what kind of felonies. So once you have a felony, you're limited where you can live, where you can work, and things like that. Some jobs, they don't hire felonies, period. And some jobs you can look at case by case. And so like Kenan said, after that, it literally changed my life dramatically to like a whole different. Now I had to think differently because now I have a felony. But then it's like I still somehow I survived, and then so I was given what they call a downward departure, where you basically sentenced to prison, but you don't get to do the time right away. You they have some where they can reduce time and you do some and not some, but this time I was given another chance to just, instead of going to prison for say 48 months, we're gonna put 48 months hanging on your head. In case you violate any way, you will go to prison then and do that 48 months. So I was basically put back on probation with that time held against me.
How much time?
48 months.
48 months, okay.
Right. And then I had to do, with the DUI, you got to do 5 years of probation, parole, before you can get you off.
So for someone who's listening, as we're winding up here, is you now have a felony. You are you are supposed to serve 48 months. What did you call it? Under what?
Downward departure. He has basically has time hanging over his head. If you violate it, you go.
So does probation and this time go hand in hand?
It's a form.
It's a form of, in a way. Yeah. So say if you do 48 months, so they say your 48 months starts today. So that 48 months starts and then you're still on probation at the same time.
So they run concurrently.
Yeah, they run concurrent.
So there you have it, Kenan.
What a young man, man. At 23 years.
23 years.
48 months. That's a long time for a 23-year-old to have. Man, are you looking at...
So 23 years,
wow.
DUI, 3 of them
cannot rent,
felony, cannot rent,
cannot work,
can work,
limited of employment
of work. Right, you're here by yourself, and unfortunately, Kenan, that's the story of someone who's listening to us, or maybe that's the story that will become of someone who has not yet gone down that journey, but the way the trajectory they're heading with their life. That's where they're heading. So again, we want to bring you back, Duncan. Talk to that young person when you have a felony. What will you tell them? Or even a parent who was a young person, or even an adult who's struggling, in one way or another. Talk to them as we wind up this series. Then we get parting shots. Get ready for part 2, where it gets even more heated.
One of the things is like I always tell people, having a felony is not the end of your life. It's not, because it's not. But having a felony comes with its own struggles. You have limitations to, certain number of things that are basics to other people. But I've learned with time, I can do certain things to make my life better from not being just a felony, Because you get, some, like I said, some people label you like, he's a felony. Like, you looked at as in what you did and not as a person. But that's not the end of the world. Like, I have a job today because I know some places do hire felonies depending on what the felony is. But it's also like if you do some classes, there's some classes they offer. And if you successfully complete your parole or probation, you can go back to the courts and request for the court to seal your record or to remove your record. Basically, that's what it is. They can remove your record. But if you successfully complete parole or probation and then go to the courts and show them that I've done A, B, C, D, and this felony on my record is holding me back. Say, for example, if you graduate from college and you have a degree in, say, social work, and that's what you're really passionate about and that's what you want to do, and you cannot get a job in some fields if you have a felony because you're dealing with people, you're going into their homes. They want to be able to trust that somebody who's coming into our homes is not a criminal. But some people look at people that, oh, he got a felony, he's a criminal. You know, they don't care what felony it is. But so if you go to court and show some good things you've done with your life from the time you got a felony to now, say whatever period of time you're on parole, the court can seal that part of your life where it doesn't show up when somebody's doing a background check. But if you go, you know, you still limited some jobs, like if you want to do like FBI and things like that, they can still see it.
I want us to bring this juice in the second part, right? I think
because it's bringing a very good aspect.
Bring a very good aspect, legal aspect. So I think when we close the second part, we will do that legal aspect, because you may be down, but you're not out, right? If you're down, you've been there, you may be down, but you're not out. Stay safe, stay put. Let's have this conversation. Join us as we build on this. We're going to spend time on the legal aspect in part 2, because that has helped you so far. And Duncan, he's come up back again and he's doing his thing. So we just want to finish there for today, but we want to tell you next week, you don't want to miss, as we go now the whole story, how Duncan ends up and finds himself in the streets, homeless completely, and where does life take him from there. Thank you so much. That has been Amazing Truth Podcast, part what?
But season 2, episode 12.
Yes, that has been.
Thank you for
our
joining
time
us.
today.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Amazing Truth Podcast. We hope you were blessed as you listened. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. God bless you, and see you on the next one.